the Jardin, who is the Japanese Studies librarian at University of Pennsylvania, and she's also an expert on digital text analysis. And today she's going to kindly introduce Voyant, which is a data visualization tool. And you will also have the chance to maybe practice on your own, given that you have been able to connect to your network. But without further ado, pass to Molly.
Good morning, everybody. So I am going to talk for only a short time and then let you play with Voyant as much as you would like to. Very quickly, I'm just going to talk about what is text analysis, what are the special challenges for Japanese, and then what is this Voyant thing that I'm going to be having you play with. So, text analysis, what do I mean by that? So the very vague definition that I came up with was it's computer-assisted reading of different kinds of text. And I'll get more into what I mean by that in a second. But another field that's kind of encompasses this, is closely related to this, is natural language processing, which you may or may not have heard of. Also, corpus linguistics is a closely related field. So people from many different fields use text analysis. It's not just like a digital humanities thing. People from the social sciences, from linguistics, computer science, business, industry. This is a very popular field right now because there are so many texts that are newly available, and data and text mining are really hot topics because we can do so much more with the hardware now than we used to be able to. So what is the starting point? What do you need to do text analysis? The big thing, obviously, is a body of text, or one text, depending on what you're going to be doing. It depends on the kind of analysis that you're doing, what kind of text you need. And what I mean by that is that largely people are using what's called plain text, and that's imagine just the content of a Word file with all the markup and everything stripped out of it. It's just a .txt file with no special formatting, no bold, no fonts. The computer can read, and I'll get into what I mean by that too, can just read that without getting tripped up by any kind of special formatting that you might have in there. But depending on what you're using it for, you may want to actually add markup. And the Text Encoding Initiative, or TEI, is a really common kind of markup that you would use to analyze text. You might want to use a custom XML schema or some other format, depending on your needs. And finally, this is more relevant, I think, for linguists or for people doing really advanced analysis. You may want to add information, linguistic information, like part of speech for each word. Or you might want to add some kind of custom linguistic information that you've determined to the text. I just want to say that the more what's called semantic your analysis is, the more difficult it is. The computer obviously cannot do everything. It has no idea what the words mean, no matter how much information you give it about relationships between things, about what kind of thing something is. It only knows the information that you give it. It can't see the outside world. So it's really important to keep that in mind. For example, finding the boundaries between words, or tokenizing, creating a token out of each word, that's pretty easy, especially with languages like English that have white space in between the words. And you have to deal with things like hyphens. Do you want to make those 2 words or 1 word, punctuation? But that's fairly easy. Part of speech tagging has become not very hard because of all the linguistics research that's gone into that. But like I said, representing concepts and relationships is practically impossible still. It's still really, really hard linguistic and computer science problem. And I think the term distant reading has become really popular these days, but I just want to emphasize that depending on what you're doing, your reading can be distant, looking at a very large corpus of text and trying to find trends in them, or it can be extremely close reading that even a human wouldn't be doing, like with parts of speech or other grammatical patterns, or it can be somewhere in between. Regardless of what you're doing, it requires human interpretation at the end. Text analysis is not the end of your research, it's like a starting point. So just a couple of real-world examples of what people do with natural language processing techniques. One, again, that this has been pretty popular lately is topic modeling. So you might have heard of this. It identifies possible themes and areas of interest for you in a very large body of text. So things that no human could read through, like the full set of WikiLeaks cables. This is like one of the classic examples of using topic modeling to go through there, and it would basically find words that don't occur very often but occur together extremely often and show you those groups of words. And you might be able to interpret that yourself and come up with, oh, this topic is about Iraq, or this topic is about war, or this topic is about women in a pastoral scene, if you're looking at 19th century novels. So it can be used for all different kinds of documents, not just WikiLeaks cables. But you have to have a lot of text to do that. Sentiment analysis has become more popular, especially in business lately. So it's trying to determine whether like a product review or a set of tweets has a positive or negative connotation. And there are specialized dictionaries that have been created that say this word tends to be positive, this word tends to be negative, but it's pretty difficult, as you can imagine, because human language is very nuanced and vague, and you're not always like really happy or really sad about something, of course, except in product reviews. So automatic summarization and generating text. Again, this is more of a business application. So you might want to automatically generate a news article based on an outline or a set of facts, like for about sports or the stock market, something pretty simple. And news outlets are doing this, and of course it saves them money. You might also cut down a news article or a large report or something, or a set of emails, and just summarize what the computer thinks are the most salient sentences. And finally, concordance or keyword and context. These are pretty basic, easy things that you can do with natural language processing, and that's what we'll be doing today with Voyant. So it's basically looking at language use. It could either be one document or a huge corpus, and it's doing a closer reading, a more grammatical, counting word frequency, stuff like that, that no human would ever want to do. So this is, as opposed to distant reading, this is very close reading. And now I'll get to why is Japanese so special, difficult for text analysis. The big one, as you can imagine, is tokenizing words, right? There's no white space in Japanese. And linguists could and probably do argue about what is a word in Japanese and where do you separate them. So that's an intellectual question that you have to ask yourself. But aside from that, the more practical part is that most existing tools out there, especially obviously ones developed for Western languages, they expect there to be space between the words. So you have to put the spaces in yourself, usually, to use these tools. The good news is that there are several programs that you can use to tokenize. The most, I would say, effective ones, and the most widely used one is MeCab, and that is from the National Institute of Japanese Language and Linguistics, if I have the order right, NINJAL. They have a standard MeCab for contemporary Japanese. They also have this custom dictionary called Unidic for modern, pre-modern, early modern Japanese, or I should say Kindai as opposed to modern, because as you know, that's a different language than contemporary. That's for more historical usage. There's also a custom dictionary for internet language. They have a dictionary for everything. So you can get really specialized, or you can just use the out-of-the-box MeCab. There's also one Python package called Tiny Segmenter that also works on contemporary Japanese that uses just grammar and no dictionaries to tokenize, which really I'm very impressed with. Finally, Voyant, which I'll show you in a few minutes, also tokenizes for you. This is a brand new feature as of, I think, 6 months ago. It did not used to tokenize your Japanese. You had to do it yourself first and then put the text in. Now it just works out of the box pretty well. Although, as I'll show you, in a minute, it doesn't work that well for like Meiji Japanese or Taisho period, I mean, which is not a surprise because it's looking for contemporary grammar and word usage. If you are working with more specialized text like that, what you can do is tokenize it yourself, tell Voyant not to do it, and then upload your own text that you've tokenized with your custom dictionary. So that can be really helpful. The very last thing that you won't have to deal with today, lucky you, is encoding. So you need to deal with Unicode text. That means not just Latin characters, but the full set of Japanese kana and kanji, as well as hentaigana if you're looking at older texts. There's also a special Japanese encoding called Shift.jis that some files come in and then you have to convert them to Unicode to get them to work with these tools. So it can get a little complicated. The files from Taiyo magazine that I gave you for today came as Shift.jis files. I had to convert those, then tokenize them. So it was a number of steps. And I just want to warn you that even if you have what you think is plain text, it can get more complicated, and you just have to be patient and learn how to use a lot of tools. So, Voyant, what is it? It is many different visualizations of, like I said, pretty basic text analysis. You're not going to do sentiment analysis in this software, but you can do word cloud and keyword and context, word frequency, look at trends of words over documents. Nothing like part of speech tagging either, but it's a really good way to begin exploring your text. And bonus, it works with Japanese out of the box, which is really exciting. It includes tokenizing the words, as I mentioned. It includes the beginning of what is called a stop word list, and that is words that you want to ignore, for example, in your word cloud, like really common words like suru or no, or in English it would be a, the, but, and, words like that, they don't have a lot of meaning for you. And it'll depend on what you're analyzing, what your stop words will be. So it's got a very short stop word list, but I find it very quirky, and I erase some of the words and put in a ton of my own in there. They also made a Japanese interface for it, so if you prefer to learn all the terms of text analysis in Japanese rather than English, they have translated the whole interface. So, without further ado, I did want to leave you a lot of time to just fool around with the software, use the text that I provided for you, or you can find your own on Aozora or a news website, whatever you would like to do. I will show you in a minute what website you will connect to, because I'm running Voyant on my own server today so we don't overwhelm their website. Basically, you just go to their website, you choose your text, you can upload them, you can copy and paste them into the text box. It's very easy to upload your text. You can pick, do I want Voyant to tokenize Japanese, or did I already do it myself? And then I'll show you how to customize your stop word list too, so you get a word cloud that has meaning for you and isn't just filled with word fragments. One note is that I have tried to use Voyant in Safari. It doesn't work very well. It works great on Firefox, so make sure to use that. I haven't tested Chrome or any other browser, but I can guarantee it'll work on Firefox. So, go. So I provided a Dropbox link with sample files as well as a text file in there that's called Voyant stop words, I believe. That has the server URL at the very top of the file. So if you open the text file that's in the Dropbox link, and I'll show you that on my machine too, it'll have a URL that's just numbers instead of like a set of letters. You can just paste that into your Firefox. The Aozora files are not already tokenized, so you'll have to have Voyant do that. The Taiyo files, which are the January 1895 issue of Taiyo magazine, are already tokenized, and I'll show you how to change that option. My stop word list is very Meiji customized, so you're going to want to change it probably for your own purposes, but that text file has just a really long list of words, and you can copy and paste it into Voyant. So you might want to do things like customize your word list, compare the difference between the files that Voyant splits into words and the ones that I already did. Like I said, you can copy and paste your own. I'll just give you an example of what a text looks like that you upload to it. And like I said, you can use the upload button to put in the text that I gave you. You can select multiple things at once. Or I just copied and pasted a URL from Bunko. And as you can see, this word cloud is kind of messy and doesn't give me a lot of information. It's Aru, so what? I don't really care that Aru is used all the time, or te or ne. Okay, so way up at the top on the right, there's this part that says trends. It has a graph here. If you hover over the bar at the top where it says document terms, there's this little tiny icon all the way on the right next to the question mark that looks like a little tiny dot. If you click on that, it opens the options menu. Okay, some people have gotten there. So it's only really one option here. It's your stop word list. So this is how you clean up your word cloud. You want to hit edit list, and you can see it's got like anatakata for some reason, all these weird words. So just delete everything in there. Just delete it. Go to my text file and copy everything in it. It's really long, and it'll take me a second. I'll copy about half of it and just throw it in here. You just copy and paste right into this box. And you can see in the example I'm showing here, the word cloud changed pretty significantly here. So you have no, which isn't really that helpful in Adi. So you might want to further tweak it. But we have more meaningful words up here now. So depending on what you want to see, you can continue to refine it as you look at the word cloud. Okay, so that was pretty much what I was going to show you up here. So if you have a question for me, just raise your hand and I'll try to talk to as many people as I can. Hello again, everybody. It sounds like we're wrapping up because lunch will come soon-ish through the snow. So if anybody has some last, more big picture questions, yeah, I mean, I can try to demo more things up here, but any questions you'd like to ask?
It's not big picture question. It's just that we want to know what that means, the te over there, and we couldn't figure it out why it says we couldn't, when we click the kami or no or other words, it didn't come up.
Right. So I was just answering a question about this. Unfortunately, clicking on the word cloud, it does highlight somewhere in the document, but see, you can see it's highlighted like here and here, but it doesn't jump to where it's highlighted that. So if it's a really long document, you'll have a hard time finding it. And that's unfortunately just the way it works.
But then how about this context the
bottom? So it starts off with one of the most common terms here, but what you can do is click on this little arrow and you can choose a different word. So
there. Okay.
Oh, no results. Let's try a more common one, Aru. Oh, it's not working for me now. Well, this one, just to explain this box, now that I have nothing in it to show you, it shows you the words that occur around that word, so it'll be like an example sentence, and if you click on that, it should jump to that sentence in the document. So it's a way to look at the context of each word. And you can type your own word into that box or just select from the list.
Okay. Can you make it shorter? Like it's a segment, right?
Yeah, you can't customize it,
okay.
But it'll show them.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. I saw another question, yeah.
Michaela and then...
We wondered if you click the sort of blue bar in the middle of your screen, does that bring those frequencies sort of back? Oh no. Can you pull from your that drop down you were trying to pull from now?
Yeah, yeah. This one?
Sorry, maybe we're just in major confusion. Please ignore us.
I'll just say that tends to happen with this software, even to me. It takes a lot of poking around and playing with it to get used to it. So don't feel like you have to master it just in this hour.
Any other questions for Molly?
If you could suggest some maybe research applications for this tool.
Right, so I actually got that question a little bit earlier too, and I think the way most people use this is that as a starting point to identify more research that they want to do on the text. So I don't think very many people use this as the only analysis in their paper, but for example, I'm working on a research project with Tayo magazine right now, and I plugged some of the text in here to see where's the tokenization not working, what kind of words are they using, like for example, it's 1895, so they're talking about China a lot, but I found that the word chugoku is never used, shinkoku is used. And that surprised me and made me interested in looking at that word some more. So I'll go down that path, but I may use different software in the end to do that. So I would say this is like kind of the starting point, but not the end point, usually.
So this is not a question, but I was wondering if you could show how to tokenize using the MeCAD.
I can't show that because it involves programming. My own machine isn't hooked up to here because the display isn't working for some reason. But I've used Python with a MeCAD package, just write a short program to take in the text, tokenize it, and then output it. But it does involve some programming skills. So if you have questions about it, though, feel free to email me, and I'd be happy to try to help with it.
More questions? All right, thank you, Molly.
Thank you all. I hope you had fun.
So,